Designing sandbox adventures was never my preferred approach, and I confess I didn't like them at all. Then I realized that, well, I didn't really know how to use them. So I wanted to share why I learned they are actually powerful tools, even for someone who values storytelling and role-playing the most, like myself. My insight came when I incorporated the village of Gwark into my campaign. Gwark was a trading post of the Tearak on Water Goblins, a tribe first mentioned in a book called Elminster's Ecologies. However, the village of Gwark itself was never mentioned in any official material, except for a name on the 4th edition Cormier regional map published in the Dragon magazine issue of July 2008. That gave me what I needed for my campaign, a non-human village in the arid Stonelands. And this is the cool map 3 friends of mine, Paulo, Caio and Sandro, helped me first to design and then illustrate. I love its flavor, with its dry soil, rigged bay area and earth mounts linked by wooden bridges. In addition, it features unexpected and weird locations, such as a lighthouse, a temple with a giant turtle skull, and sulphurous water pools. Those locations immediately attracted my players' curiosity, who were eager to go there and check them out. Settlements make great sandboxes because they have what I call description encounter triggers. So many things were going on Gwark, but they didn't need to be told through a linear approach. That allowed me to hide the storytelling blocks in each of those locations, sometimes in the hands of NPCs the characters would interact with, sometimes in the locations themselves, or in objects or events that were going on in each area. That allowed me to hand over to my players where they wanted to start to uncover their adventure story, along with the great freedom for their exploration. But what are encounter triggers to begin with? They're the connection that compel players to go from one encounter to another. We're used to the simplest of them all. The party receives a quest that triggers them to move toward the subsequent encounter. I like to think of encounter triggers in 2 dimensions. The first dimension is their nature. Triggers can be information, clues, or descriptions. An information trigger is a clear fact or knowledge about a subsequent encounter the party may pursue. I like to use it to lead the party to an encounter that is essential for the adventure's development. For example, suppose the characters are dealing with a stray werewolf in the city, and an NPC says, "There's a sage who knows much about lycanthropes. Maybe you should consult with him." It's a straightforward statement about an available encounter. Contrary to information, clue triggers only provide partial information or signs that can help players to develop a hypothesis or answer a question. If they get it right, that should lead them to a new encounter. I like to use clue triggers when I want to provide optional encounters the party can pursue. Typically, that encounter should make their life easier as a reward for getting the clue right. Using the previous example, it may be that while the characters are talking to that sage in his bookshop, they notice claw marks in one of his bookshelves. What could that mean? Did the werewolf attack him? Is the sage himself actually the werewolf? Will the characters ask him directly about the claw marks, or discreetly note that down and keep it for themselves? That could lead the characters to follow the sage during that full moon night to rule that out, which in turn could provide an easier path for them to solve the mystery. The last encounter trigger I like to use are the description triggers. Again, sandboxes are the environment where they shine. Just like I mentioned for the village of Gwark, the only information provided to players are the characterizations of the available locations. They work the best for me when there's some compelling fact or twist about those locations. That's usually enough to compel players to get curious and start exploring a few of those locations, where of course, a few encounters will happen. But how can those encounter triggers be conveyed? How are those information, clues, and descriptions made available for the characters? That's the second dimension I like to think about encounter triggers. They're media. I try to organize myself thinking of the 5 W's. Who for NPCs, what for objects, where for locations, why for events, and when for time. Any of those 5 media can communicate a trigger for the characters. The first W, who or NPCs, is quite intuitive, as it's very common to use NPCs as triggers, like in the example of one character mentioning the existence of a werewolf sage that could be of help. The second W, what or objects, is handy for making things exciting and unexpected. It can be a letter, a book, a rune, a painting, or even claw marks on a bookshelf. The where or locations is similar to objects, but instead it's an entire location that provides the trigger. The descriptions of my locations in the village of Gork are good examples of such a trigger. The fourth W, why or events, is something that happens that provides players with an encounter trigger. For example, in our werewolf quest, it could be that the beast kills someone next to him, opening another line of investigation and encounters that the characters could follow. The last W, when or time, is a bit different, as it typically marks an in-game moment when an encounter trigger is disclosed. In this previous example, it could be that the werewolf is set to kill its victim on the 3rd night from the beginning of the adventure. It's still an event, a why, but it's triggered not by the characters interacting in an encounter and instead set to happen at a particular in-game moment. When establishing encounter triggers for my adventures, I'm pretty much combining those 2 dimensions. I'm providing the players with information, clues, or descriptions, and I'm doing that through NPCs, objects, locations, events, or at previously established in-game time. Clearly establishing those concepts in my mind allowed me to be much more creative in designing the links between my adventure encounters, making them more exciting and immersive for my players. It proved to be another helpful tool in my DM utility belt, and hopefully it will be useful for you too.